Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is SP Jimmy, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Water Blast ability. This is a primary for blasters and for corruptors. It's a secondary for defenders, and even though it's not listed here, we know that these Sentinels also have access to Water Blast as well. So stick around until the end of the video because we're going to look at both a Sentinel Water Blast build and a Blaster Water Blast build, and I bet if you look down in the comments right now, you will see both of those builds linked. The only difference between a Sentinel and any of the other classes that can get Water Blast is that Whirlpool and Dehydrate come at opposite levels, so that a Sentinel would always get Dehydrate at level 6 a little bit sooner. Now, Water Blast is really cool because it has this Tidal Forces ability, which we're going to be able to talk a bit more about today. It causes some of your abilities to generate tidal forces. Some of them are going to spend tidal forces and get an increased chance to affect depending on what ability that is, and we'll go through and check all of those out. But let's check out about the overview. Water Blast grants you command over the power of water. This can be used to weaken and crush your foes with all of the power of a tidal wave. Some Water Blast powers allow the user to build tidal power, while others consume tidal power. You can have 3 stacks of tidal power on yourself at a time, and your tidal power can be released to strengthen your water spout, water jet, and geyser powers. Using these powers will remove some or all of your tidal power. And these abilities have, like, some of them it's better to use tidal power with. One of them I'm not really sure if it's worth it, which is Dehydrate, because we'll see it's actually going to increase your healing to yourself if you have tidal power. But I think you'd rather maybe do some damage with the status effect with the other abilities instead. Starting off, you have a choice between Aqua Bolt and Hydro Blast. Then you get Water Burst, Whirlpool, Tidal Forces, Dehydrate, Water Jet, Steam Spray, and Geyser as your tier 9. Aqua Bolt, you strike your foe with a rapid blast of freezing cold water, causing light damage and smashing damage, as well as reducing their defense. Aqua Bolt is going to build 1 tidal power, and it's one of the, I think there's 3 of them in this set that take defense debuff and accurate defense debuff. So if you're a blaster, corruptor, or defender, I'm going to say you could probably skip Aqua Bolt and be okay. It does light damage, and the other alternative, which is Hydro Blast, does high damage, and I think that that's better. The only time I could really see you taking Aqua Bolt is if you were a Sentinel and you wanted access to the proc that a Sentinel gets as with its tier 1 ability. That's really the only time I could see you taking Aqua Bolt. Dehydrate, you rapidly dehydrate your target, causing moderate cold and smashing damage, reducing their movement speed and defense, as well as causing a measure of cold damage over time. You are then healed over time for a moderate amount of health. Dehydrate grants 1 stack of tidal power if you have 2 or less. If you have 3, it consumes tidal power and grants an increased heal. So this can be used to either generate stacks of tidal power or to consume that tidal power for the increased chance to heal. I don't think that the heal is worth it, and as I was looking through builds and picking out the ones I wanted to share with you guys, I noticed I didn't really see anybody even put in a healing or accurate healing set category, even though I guess you could. What I saw was a lot of people just going for like full 6-slot range damage, not even really trying to proc it, just trying to get as much damage out of Dehydrate as you possibly could. So I think it's definitely a good ability to take, but I don't think that it's worth using the tidal power. Maybe the tidal power makes the heal worth it if you need it in an emergency, but yeah, it's more for damage, I would imagine, than survivability. But I guess it would add. There's no point not to take it. The geyser, you cause the earth to erupt beneath your target's feet as a geyser of scalding hot water burns your foes and tosses them violently into the air. Geyser causes high fire and smashing damage before causing high fire damage over time, as well as reducing the target's movement speed. Geyser consumes all tidal power. Both the initial damage and damage over time portions of this power will be increased and have a scaling chance to disorient for each stack of tidal power. If you have 3 stacks of tidal power, Water Burst will have a 100% chance to disorient the affected target. So look at that little, not like pseudo holds in there with disorient, stuff that you can do to get some damage off of you and hold them a little bit more. Plus, you're getting some fire damage in there that you didn't get in the rest of the set. This is giving you minus speed to everybody around. I don't think that you ever really need to increase the slow of any of the abilities. There's so many abilities that have that slow effect, I think you're going to be fine just by the natural stack up that they get anyways. But this does have that knock up ability, which is pretty useful. I will say I like them going up into the air instead of just going straight back, even though it does sometimes knock them back a little bit as well. Disorient, and then that is going to be a good use of your tidal power to get that disorient up. So that it might be one of the powers that you spend your tidal power on. Hydroblast, you briefly focus before releasing an intense blast of chilling water at your foe that causes high cold and smashing damage. Affected foes will have their movement speed reduced briefly and have a chance to be knocked down. Hydroblast builds 1 tidal power. So this is what I think the Blaster, Corruptor, and Defender would probably be taking as their initial power, their initial damage dealer. Is giving you plus tidal power, and is giving you knockdown that the Aqua Bolt wasn't giving you. This also has the minus speed ability, but it doesn't have the minus defense that we've been looking for yet, right? But what does have the minus defense is Steam Spray, and that's really the only reason I can see to take Steam Spray as well, is for that minus defense, even though we get that, and I believe at least 1 more power, because I really don't like Fire Breath, and this seems just like the watery version of Fire Breath, and it even does fire damage, which I think is just a kick in the teeth to me. So you spray scalding hot steam in a cone in front of you, badly burning affected targets. Steam Spray causes high fire damage, minor fire damage over time, and reduces the target's defense slightly. Steam Spray grants 1 stack of tidal power, but isn't that nice that you're getting such a mix of damage sources and types in your set that's not just cold damage, right? But this is going to be one of your tidal power builders. We get Tidal Forces, which we'll talk about next, which gives you 3 stacks of tidal power when you enter into a fight anyways. So really I'm only would be doing this to debuff the enemy. I don't think that this is much of a initiator or something like that. I'd probably want to be using the geyser, right, if I'm really going for that targeted AoE damage, but this is just a quick debuff, I think, to get in there. However, and when we look at the builds on Pines, I think Steam Spray is actually, depending on if they take it or not, can be actually pretty powerful. For Tidal Forces, the only difference that a Sentinel would get here versus a Blaster, Corruptor, or Defender is that when they use Tidal Forces, they also get a plus range effect, which isn't listed here. Plus range, and then they also get the 3 tidal power that the other classes would get as well. So that's just kind of your build-up ability there. I would always take that. And then Water Burst, you cause water to violently explode from beneath your target's feet, blasting all foes nearby with freezing cold water. Affected targets will suffer moderate cold and smashing damage, have their movement speed reduced, and may be knocked down by the force of the blast. Water Burst consumes all tidal power. It deals additional cold damage and has a great chance to knock down for each stack of tidal power. If you have 3 stacks of tidal power, Water Burst will have a 100% chance to knock the targets into the air. So this Water Burst, along with the Geyser, is going to be 2 of your probably main spenders for Tidal Forces. Do you want to disorient them, and then you get Tidal Forces back up, and then you're knocking them into the air, and then they're going back? What order do you guys think you would want to do those in as your initiator? I mean, you get Water Burst at level like 2, unless you're a defender, but it's like one of your starters, so you might as well. That'd probably be your initiator for a while until you were able to get up to 32 for Geyser for the big scalding one. All right. Water Jet, you spray a concentrated torrent of water at short range toward your target that causes high cold and smashing damage, as well as reducing your target's movement speed. If you have 2 or less tidal power, then it will grant you an additional stack and serve to build your tidal power. If you already have 3 tidal power and you activate this ability, it's going to give an enhanced effect, causing Water Jet to cast slightly faster animation time, and it immediately resets the recharge of Water Jet, so you could use it again, or Water Jet build up, Water Jet, and, and get a double attack in there. Water Jet's enhanced effects can be used once every 8 seconds. And then this is also available on the Sentinels as well. Seems like it's a high damage, it's short range distance, but it's definitely going to be able to do some damage, knocking them up, and it's giving you that minus speed to follow up with whatever else you want after that. whether or not, I think this might be better just to hit a single target, as I was saying, like water jet, tidal force is water jet, but for groups, you're going to want to be entering in with the AoE for sure. And then you have Whirlpool, which is kind of like the water blast version of um, what's the dark miasma ability called? Tar Patch. You create a violent whirlpool at the target location, causing cold damage over time, reducing the target's speed and defense for a short time. Whirlpool grants 1 stack of tidal power, so it does give you a cold damage over time. Whether or not you're able to use this effectively is going to, I guess, depend on your binds and macros. There is a way that I bet you could bind this to like maybe alt click or shift click if you don't already have your teleport set to that, and just have the whirlpool go down, because we can do that with the tar patch for dark miasma as well. That would be a cool macro to get in there, so you can use that a little bit quicker. But yeah, here is the one I would think you get the most benefit from the defense debuff because it's an area of effect, not just the cone or the single target that we saw before. Or you can get all three and go for maximum defense debuff, and I'm sure that would be fine. But I think you're getting a lot of it there anyways. So let's switch over to Pines, and we're going to start off with the Blaster. And we're going to do this in a little bit different format. If I hold Control and press G, I can actually bring up the total power stats for the abilities that were taken. Powers taken. There we go. So not only are we able to see the enhancements, and let's see, the Blaster skipped Aqua Bolt as we thought, because it's just light damage, skip and Steam Spray because that's my boy and I don't like powers like that. But he did get the Geyser, he did get the Whirlpool, so he does have some nice defense in there. And we can see Geyser is actually his highest damaging ability, both from the base and then also for the enhanced effect here shown in the yellow. Geyser is 6 slotted with Ragnarok, so that makes sense. Wow, he could actually go a little bit higher with damage. He's only in the yellows there. All right. And then he has Ripper from Plant afterwards. So this is a water, plant, and mace build. Check the comments below because you could also be using this build. Now, the Blaster archetype enhancement gives a recharge and chance for fire damage. So he has that on his Hydro Blast, which I believe is doing, yes, the high damage one anyway. So he's also getting some fire damage in there as well. But it's really the 6 slot proc he's going for here. Oops, don't change anything. No. But it's, let's see. Yeah, he just wanted the extra defense and stuff in there. We'll take a look at his defense and stuff here in a moment. But to see where's his other proc, here it is. So he had Superior Blaster's Wrath and Hydro Blast, and then Superior Defiant Barrage, which gives you the recharge time and plus status. And he has that on his Water Burst, which is his area of effect ability, which is completely maxed out and seems to be doing, it's okay damage. I bet it comes back fast enough that you could use it. But look how much Water Jet is doing. Wow. Water Jet looks like a gigantic ability here. Geyser, Water Jet. That's why doubling up Water Jet does like as much as a whole Geyser. And you can do that quickly and then get in there and then throw Geyser and do others. Now let's take a look. If I close the power stats window, so I opened that by doing Control G. Let's do Control T, and I'm going to bring up, if I may, the enhanced totals view. And if I click totals over here, we can see the effects that they're getting not only from their defense and lack of resistance here in the Blaster. Let's see. Well, Vengeance puts him at cap. Tough, not even 16-30%. Okay. But we can also see the status effects that he would be able to resist here as well. So he's going to want a little bit more, 70% status resistance. Sleep and Immobilize, he seems okay. I could go a little bit higher. So check that one out if you want to do a Water Plant Blaster. Here is the Sentinel build, Water Blast, Ice Armor, and Ice Mastery. And Control G shows us the power stats. We can see the Geyser a little bit weaker than the Blaster version. Blaster, I think, was like 402, somewhere close to there. So 324 here. And then rather than Water Jet being the second highest, Dehydrate is actually their second highest, strongest ability it looks like. I like that they have a res debuff here in the Whirlpool. So along with the minus defense, they're also doing minus res, but that's from the Annihilation. They could also do minus res from Achilles heel, but that wouldn't stack with any other Achilles heel, even though I don't see that anywhere else in their build. If I do Control T, I can see the advanced totals, bringing it up with the other totals on the side. And it looks like he's got about 46% defense. He's got 34% resistance in some cases, and a bit stronger status resistance than the blaster had in every regard. I think he's going to be just fine for that. Did you know that by clicking on the subscribe button that you are going to be kept up to date on all the latest guides, builds, macros, and more that are coming out of my channel? Also check the description below for a link to the SP Jimmy Discord. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in a little bit.